Hi friends, hello, happy Wednesday. Holy smokes, it's Wednesday. Feels like Friday. It's been a week, right? It's been a week. Okay, got a couple of little techie things need to turn off here. Okay, friends, I'm super excited for today's tutorial. Welcome to Craft Your Joy Live. I'm Lisa Hetrick. Today, we're not making a card. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. We're having a watercolor paint along, paint and chat. If you're on my email list, today's tutorial or today's illustration came to you in your email box. If not, join my email list and I'll send it to you. No worries. But today we're going to paint a butterfly and we're going to talk about Winsor and Newton watercolor. And the reason why is because I've gotten a lot of direct messages, I've gotten a couple emails, and many of you have asked me about this particular brand on this channel in some videos over the last few months. So we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about the Cotman brand and we're going to talk about the professional brand. And we're going to paint a butterfly. So hello, I see friends popping in. Hello, Rhonda, Gloria, Kathy, Judith, and Kathy. Lots of friends popping in. Okay, today's a little bit different. We're not making cards. We're going to have a little watercolor paint and chat, and I'm going to just kind of talk a little bit about some stuff and show you some things like sketchbooks and paint, and it's just going to be all about watercolor. Okay, let's dive in. Going to head to the overhead cam. Oh, also today, I'm going live today because I have an ENT appointment this week and next week because my sinuses are a wreck and it's time to finally get this figured out. So anyway, news, a little bit of TMI. Okay, friends, today we are going to paint this mother of pearl. And what I wanted to do, I'm going to share a few things with you. Got a little bit of paint here I'm going to talk about as well, and we're going to totally dive in. Hello, friends. Now, if you have questions along the way, just pop a Q or question in the chat, and I will answer them along the way. We're going to do some techniques. We're going to talk about paint. We're going to just kind of have some fun. Karen just said, hey, I have Winsor Newton, but don't really know how to use them. You know what? We're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about it. There's so many different watercolor brands. I talk about a lot of different watercolor brands on this channel because I'm super curious about them. We're going to talk about all of that along the way. All right, friends. Now, we're going to paint this butterfly today. But first of all, I just kind of wanted to show you something. These are some sketchbooks that I have. Now, all the supplies I'm using and all of the different kinds of Winsor & Newton products that I've tested and used are linked down below in the description here on YouTube and on Facebook because I'm streaming live to both. And yeah, everything is there for you if you have any questions about them. And I am going to walk through a little something. I also have a link down here to a playlist on my channel. Back in I feel like it was 2020. It might have been 2019. I participated in something called the 100-day challenge. I didn't do all 100 days. I think I did like 50 some or 60 some. But I wanted to paint butterflies. And so these two sketchbooks are full of painted butterflies. Hello, Glormar, who just popped in. She said, I love your love your Skillshare classes. Thank you. I have my online classroom at craftyourjoy.com. And if you're on Skillshare, you can find a ton of my classes over there. So I'm just going to do a quick walk, like a quick flip through of some of these butterflies and talk a little bit about them just because it's fun. It's just because it's fun to look at other people's sketchbooks, right? And today is watercolor paint and chat. No real, agenda here. Okay. So on that if you're interested, go back to that playlist and just kind of watch it because I really kind of took a deeper dive. And I might have painted live. I don't really remember because it was a couple years ago. But what I did is I just painted a bunch of butterflies. And this is an Arteza sketchbook. So the sketchbook is watercolor paper. It's like a 90-pound watercolor paper, but it's not 100% cotton. It's more like a Canson. So I skipped, there's a rough side and then there's this smooth side. So I skipped every other page when I was painting. And this was just an exercise for me because I wanted to experiment with different watercolor palettes in my stash. And I used a lot of Winsor Newton and I used Cotman. I used lots of different brands when I was painting these. And I just had a ton of fun. So when I was revisiting, this is pretty wild, kind of funky. When I was revisiting these recently, I was like, oh, let's make one of these flutters part of a watercolor paint and chat. And some of these flutters were inspiration for different stamp sets that I've created for Gina K. So there's that too. Some of these look like, and some of them look like a lot of fun and just super, super fun. But the point of this was to have some fun and play. Like, look how wonky that is. And I think that might be it that's in here. But let's go back to, this one might be my favorite out of this whole book. We're going to paint this one today because it's fun. And I think there's a few in here too. This is a handbook journal, which is very, very similar to the Arteza ones, except this one just costs more. And I found it at my local art shop. So I'll just do a quick flip through. Also, this handbook journal has the texture on both sides of the paper. I think that was the big difference of why I bought it. I love that color. Look, I got to explore and kind of play with some washy-washy watercolor. This one, this one is my favorite. This is a Halconian. The Kaiser. This one's another. This is another one of my favorites. But all this to say that these were just some experiments that I did in painting flutters in this. So, and it was just part of a fun challenge. So I wanted to bring those out today because we're going to paint this flower. And here is the inspiration. Here's the book that I used for inspiration to paint those flowers. So here is that mother of the pearl butterfly. So I pulled those colors and you can see that those colors, I've interpreted this design into my painting. You can see that the body look of that particular mother of the pearl. I even just played around with extending the body. So just using this as inspiration to kind of go off and do my own thing, which is super, super fun. All right, now let's dive in. This is going to be our reference. I'm going to pop this kind of like in front of me a little bit. This is going to be a reference. Now, let's talk about Winsor and Newton watercolors real quick before we get started. Also, I'm going to be painting in this sketchbook, and I'll walk through this one in a few minutes. Now, Winsor Newton watercolors. Let's bring them in. This is my stash of Winsor Newton watercolors. So, and this is my paint stash as well of them in tubes. So the tubes, Winsor Newton comes into, they have a student brand called Cotman, and they have their professional brand. Now here's the thing about Winsor Newton, and I've shared lots of different watercolor brands on this channel, like Rosa Gallery, Paul Rubens, Schminke, like a lot of different professional brands, a lot of different artist grade brands that feel like professional brands. Here's my disclaimer. You do you, right? You do not need all of these watercolors. You do not need this much watercolor. I am an extremely curious person and have to know for myself. So I tend to have, over the last 30 years, experimented with a lot of different brands, and I've accumulated a lot of different paints. So you could never use all of these in a lifetime, but I'm sharing them with you because I have an appreciation for them and a curiosity for them. So maybe you do too. So today is all about Winsor Newton. I'm going to walk through some of the things and just some of my observations, and we're going to paint with them. So here are the tubes, and I have a lot of these different tubes. You can see some of these are the old packaging of the tubes. Some are newer. And this is just from a lot from over the years, and even when I was in college and before that. And this is kind of a stash of different versions. Most of this is Cotman and some professional. Now, I'm going to point out a few of these. This is a professional one. This is like one of my first Winsor & Newton sets. It's a little set of 12. I have all of these sets linked in the description. It's a little set of 12. It's got 12 Cotman colors in here. You can easily refill this when you use it. It's a great little pocket set. I absolutely love it. So I kind of whip it out every once in a while and play with it. It's got some really good space here to mix up your colors. Love it. Here's another one. This is super fun. This is a travel set, and I really like this set, and I've taken it. I've traveled with it before, but it's called this. I have professional colors in here because I changed them out, but this is how it comes. It's called the Field Pocket Set, and I actually have this as an extra because I really got a good deal on it. And I'm going to swap out some of these paints and put something different in here so that I can travel with it. So super fun. But I'm going to pop this open real quick just so you see like what it looks like. So this becomes like the cup. It opens up like this. Oh, it's got some mixing space. This hooks onto this. Let's see if I got to hook it on right here. Yep. This hooks onto this and it becomes a cup. This is a little brush that's kind of useless, so it's really small. And then you fill this up with water, and you can also use it as mixing space. And all of these paints are your like travel paints. And these are the paints that I have in here. You can see the colors. And I just kind of tuck that right there. So I do love this. I love taking this out in the backyard, or if I'm going to go somewhere like to the beach or something, and just it folds up really nice, and I just like it. All right, I feel myself like nerding out a little bit about these sets, so let's just move on a little bit quicker. I'm going to put this to the side. This is my professional set, but you can see that these sets come in bigger. This is a set of 12. And this is a set of 14 set of professional colors. I've also put a few little dabs of color there. This is a great little set. You can put water here and just kind of tuck that there. It's great. It's a great travel set. Great for sketchbooks. Love it. Get a lot of good use out of it. I'm going to put that to the side. This one is one that's a little harder to open. I do love this set. It's a larger full pan set. And these are all the colors that are in here. And this is from the Cotman line. Just quickly sharing that with you. And then this one down here is another one. It's a little hard to open. Because I got to get my finger underneath there. But this is one of the half pan sets. And I've linked that down below in the description too. These are really, priced well. So I kind of dig them. But I love all those colors. I just love all those colors. That mauve color is like one of my favorites. And I've added a few colors in this set, so I just love it. Zan just said, I think painting with watercolor and collecting watercolors are totally different hobbies. I feel that. I feel that statement. I really do. So I'm just going to put these away. And remember, like I said at the beginning, the little disclaimer, you do not need all these watercolor sets. I'm going to pop those to the side. I've got two more over here, but those are the ones we're going to be painting with. Now, this set right here is my professional line. This is my professional set. These have all the professional watercolors in there that I've curated, and they are in this set. So I just love these colors. I honestly, I don't play with them enough because I have so many. That aqua green just blows me away. The transparent orange in Winsor Newton is probably one of my favorite oranges out of all of the brands that I've ever used. It's actually one of my favorite, that transparent orange. Lots of really fun colors here. Lots of really fun colors. Now this is my last nerd out, friends, and I promise we're going to get started on our painting. So this is a little travel set. I have this little canvas bag, and I had this, it's not so little, Kelly Ray Roberts designed this. This is a little patch. So I put it on top of this little canvas bag. Oh, Kathy, it's a great question. I'm going to get right to that. And then this is my little portable painter. Kathy's question was, what's the difference between professional sets and others? I'm going to show you. This is my little portable painter, and this is full of Winsor & Newton professional colors that I just kind of curated in. I've taken this one to the beach many times, and these are just kind of some of my favorite colors for flower painting. And if you've never seen the portable painter, this thing is wild. This thing is wild. Look at it. It is just, it fits in your hand like a cell phone. Meanwhile, I need to take my glasses off so I can see what I'm doing. Here we go. And then it sits like this. You put water in both sides, and then you can just kind of open it up like that, and you're painting. Isn't that fun? You can put your brushes in here on one side, and you can put your paint in on the other side. It's kind of wild. Kind of wild. Okay. I'm going to close this up so that we can move on and get to it. All right, let's close this up. And this has a little tiny, I got a couple portable painters. If you've taken my Watercolor Wonderland class, and I know many of you have, I talked about these in there as well. And I actually ran through quite a bit of these paints. Okay, let's get started. Let's get started. Now, I am going to be using Winsor & Newton Cotman today. Here are two sets that I use often. They're basically the same. This one has a little bit more paint. So I think we're going to be using this one. This one, I just have a couple other colors in it, like turquoise, and I think I have mauve in this one that's not in this one. And I have a couple Rosa Gallery ones in here. So I might just kind of go back and forth with it. But I want to show you and answer that question from Kathy. Mary just said, when you nerd out, we learn cool stuff. You know what, friends? I could go on like for days. If I pulled out all of my watercolor sets and just kind of went through, I think we would be on here for hours. Me just like nerding out and pointing out different colors from different sets that I've experimented with that have become my favorites. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that on a weekend or a Sunday or something. But today, we're going to play with Winsor & Newton Cotman. Now, the difference between professional sets and others. Here's the difference. Now, I don't have a big time bias. I like to play with everything. Winsor & Newton, there's the biggest difference, the number one difference between professional brands and artist grade brands in every brand is price, is totally the price. Winsor & Newton tends to be a little more expensive than other options that are out there. But they've been around forever. Like they've been around a really, really long time. And most artists who've been artists a really, really long time, we didn't have a lot of options way back in the 1900s, right? We didn't have a ton of options and a ton of different brands that are available now. So there are just so many different things that are out there that you can try that are at great price points. I still find myself coming back to Winsor & Newton, A, because I've collected them a really long time, B, because they're absolutely beautiful, beautiful with florals. I'm going to show you some in this sketchbook right here. And I just really enjoy them. They're reliable, and I understand how to use them. And that's part of it. When you're picking out a watercolor set and you really, really enjoy it and you really love it, it's because you've learned how to use it and you've experimented with it and it becomes your go-to. So this tends to be a little set that I kind of go back to every once in a while. And Cherie said, we should have a PJ party. Yeah, and it would just be like a total watercolor chat nerd out. So the professional in Winsor Newton are more expensive. The tubes can be kind of expensive, but a lot of professional watercolors are more expensive than their student grade. And also the difference is the pigments, the amount of pigment in the paint. There tends to be more pigment in the professional line versus the student line. However, there's always trade-offs to that, and there's always differences between that. There are some colors in the Winsor Newton line that I have found that it's really hard to tell the difference between their artist grade and their student grade. So I kind of just like to play with all of them. And then look at this. Let's just come in. Let me see. Where are we here? Let's just come in a little tighter here. So this is the Cotman set of 24. So here are the colors that are in that set. And we're going to be playing with today. We're going to be playing with Permanent Rose, Cerulean Blue Hue, and where are we? Burnt Sienna. But if you look at these colors, they're really, really very, very vibrant, this Cotman set, when you're using like not a lot of water. This is like a whole milk consistency, and I really just enjoy them. I just think they're a really fantastic watercolor, and they tend to be a little more expensive. You can see some of the pricing, but they also tend to go on sale for like these phenomenal prices. So if you're getting started, I'm going to pull this little set out. Like I've seen this little set of 12 go for like $10, $12. I think right now on Amazon it's $18. You know, and sometimes you might see it for $30. So it's just bizarre how pricing works, especially on Amazon. As Anne just said, are some synthetic and some natural pigments? In the Winsor Newton line, no. No. They're all like real pigments, and you can always see the pigment information kind of indicated on, let me pull that down a little bit, indicated right on the box. So like, I'll pull one of these out. You can see on the back here, this set, the pigment information is listed. I don't know if that's popping up really clear. It's kind of small. Let's pop in. Let's see if I can come in a little tighter so that you can see. Okay, so you can see like PV19, PR179. You can see like right here, there's 2 pigments to make up that color. So these charts are a really good indicator for you to tell you like what kind of pigments are being used. A lot of these pigments in the Winsor Newton line are single pigment, except for like Hooker's Green. I love that color. Sap Green are 3 pigments. And you'll notice across different brands, as you become experiment with different brands, that this pigment, PV19, might be called something different in another brand. It's wild. The watercolor world is wild and woolly. But my bottom line is like, have fun with it. Have a ton of fun. Oh, Catherine just shared, your swatches make me wish I kept my pan wrappers. Oh, such a good thing. Keeping the pan wrappers. And what she means is, I'm going to open this set so that you can see, because this one is like an untouched set. Let's open this Cotman set up. Oh, a little tough to get off the first go. The pan wrappers are those right there. I don't keep them because if I did, it would be like, I'd have a lot of pan wrappers, and I'm kind of laughing at myself. But in these sets, you know, you get like little brochures too that will give you the entire color chart of like, here's the color chart for the entire Cotman line. So the professional line has more colors than the student grade line. So here's my theory. It's not even a theory. Here's my opinion. Because somebody might watch this video in the future and start coming at me about professional versus student. I love them both. And in different brands, I can barely tell a difference. And sometimes I can't tell a difference in this brand. And the reason is because of how I'm using them and what I'm painting. I'm a paper crafter. I'm a flower painter and a watercolor artist. I'm not a portrait artist. I'm not doing projects that are being commissioned and are large, and I want to make sure they live longer than I do. I hope that some of them do. I'm working in sketchbooks. I'm working on paper. I'm doing cards. I'm having fun with it. So my curiosity leads me into different brands to see what they do, because all of them do different things. Complete nerd out. So if you are really, really into diving into pigments and diving into like what brands do different things, there are whole channels on YouTube that just focus on that, and they don't paint. They actually just swatch. So you can learn a lot about things like that. So Dan just said the watercolor Wild Wild West. Honestly, it is the Wild Wild West. And I would say, like, within the last 10 years, all of the different watercolor brands that have come on the market can make it feel overwhelming, but can also make it kind of feel super exciting. So, all right, let's just dive in, because I feel like I've nerded out enough. Now, this sketchbook right here is super dirty. It's a white canvas sketchbook, and Lisa can't have white things. Lisa can't wear white shirts. Lisa can't have white things because it will get dirty. But the reason why I like this sketchbook is it's an etcher sketchbook, and it's 100% cotton paper on the inside. And that's what we're going to paint today. It's a little pricey. I've listed it down below, but it's kind of worth it. If you feel like you're a type of person that's going to feel like things are a little too precious and you don't want to paint in it, maybe start with one of the Arteza ones, or just start with the Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor, which I would have painted on today, but I decided to do a sketchbook today. And I'm just going to walk through this one real quick and kind of show you just some things that are in here. Now, this painting right here, many of you might recognize this concept because it is also was the inspiration for one of my stamp sets. I think Choose Grace is the stamp set. That's the name of it. It's got the cup and it's got some of the blooms in it. Actually, it's a retired stamp set now. I think it just retired this last go. But I painted this in Winsor Newton colors, and I just love it. Okay, just going to do just kind of quick flip through. Hey, friends, just talking about the Wild Wild West. This painting right here was done with Paul Rubens. Look at it. Super vibrant. Love the color. Love the color. This one was done with, this was Paul Rubens as well. All right, I'm going to keep moving. And we're going to get, and there's some experiments that I'm doing right now. Gloria says she has that set. Yes, she has that stamp set. All right, let's get to it. Let me find my page. Here we go. We're diving in. Now, if you're on my email list, you've got this illustration in your email box. I also have like my store. I've closed my store, but my Etsy store is still open, and some of my things, these kinds of things, are going to be going back in that store. But I took that painting that we're going to do today, and I made a vinyl sticker and a pin, and these were sold in a couple shops locally, and they were sold on my store. We're going to use them. We're going to use it today as a little reference. But first, we're going to talk about color. And, I don't know what I did with it. I had my whole little, all right, I guess I didn't pop it over. I've got some paint, some brushes. I'm using the Princeton Heritage line. I've got a 10, a 6, a 2, and a 3. We're going to be probably using the 6 and the 2 today. But now we're going to talk about the colors. I've got Permanent Rose, Cerulean Blue, and Burnt Sienna, which is making up the colors that you see in the painting here. And these are the colors that we're going to play with today. And let's just find a good spot for this. I'm kind of noodling around here finding a good spot. And I'm also going to probably bring in a little bit of Opera Rose. Oh, here it is. Here's my little dish that we might be using. Now, here's our nerd out. CCC, Cotman. PPP, Professional. Permanent Rose in the Cotman. Permanent Rose in the Professional. They're both gorgeous. This has just a little bit more pigment in it, but if I actually loaded up my brush with a lot more. So with the Winsor Newton Cotman, you can achieve some of the same looks of the Professional line, but you're loading up a little bit more paint on your brush. Nothing wrong with that, right? Cerulean Blue, love this color. The Cerulean Blue in the Professional line granulates a little bit more. You can see the pigments here are a little bit finer. The pigments here aren't as fine. Burnt Sienna, probably one of my favorite colors, my favorite brown across many, many brands. I do love it in the Winsor Newton. And here it is in the Cotman, and here it is in the Professional line. Not much of a difference, a little bit of a different, there's a little bit, feels like there's a little bit more of a yellow in this one, even though there isn't. Let's take a peek at the pigments in the Burnt Sienna. It's PR101. So that's PR101. And then the Burnt Sienna here, a little bit more brown, right? Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so you can see that my experiments between my Professional and the Cotman are giving me some very similar color values, color hues with these two paints. So we're just going to dive in, friends. I think I'm going to use this set. Let's pop this over here. I'm keeping my little key kind of in front of me so I know where everything is. And this, it keeps falling down. This set right here, I actually have added, I took out some of the pieces so that I could add more in. This was actually wide open and you could put like a sponge here, but I threw some of the Winsor Newton metallics in. All right, I've talked for half an hour, friends, and really nerded out. So this is our watercolor paint and chat. I chatted, now we're gonna paint. And I'm not sure how this is gonna come out because I have not painted this this butterfly in a couple years. So we're going to see how it goes. See if I'm a little rusty. I'm going to take some water and just spray my paints and just get them activated. I'm not using all the paints, but I'm going to spray and get them activated. I've got some water here. Now, one of the questions I received this week in one of my YouTube videos was people really wanted to see like my water, what I used, my paper towel, and my brush setup. So normally I use a flour sack, but they're all in the washer right now. So I just grabbed a little bit of a paper towel, and I'll use this over and over and over again. I've got 1 glass of water right now. I should have 2, but I only have 1. And I've got my little spray bottle here. So let's just go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to do a mix here. I'm trying to figure out where I want to put. Let's kind of come out a little bit. I just want to make sure I get in the screen, get everything in the screen here really nicely so that everybody can see. I'm a left-hander, so you can see that I'm struggling to work in this book because normally I've got my paints on my left-hand side. And so I'm going to have to move my paints up here. Now, bear with me. I'm going to move my face over here so that you can see the paints. So that was wild, wasn't it? Me moving my face. Let's just pop it right there. Okay, we're going to get started. And I'm going to start. Now, I've got this wide open space here. I need to kind of move some things here. I need this to be up a little bit. And let's just bring our paints in here, turn them sideways. Friends, I'm just kind of a mess right now trying to get this set up for you. Okay, this lefty problems, being a lefty. All right, I'm gonna concentrate on focusing on doing a little bit of wet into wet and wet into dry. So I'm first gonna start with getting the pinks. Let's bring our sticker in so you can see. Getting my pinks in a really, really light wash. And then we're going to do some glazing. So we're going to do some light wash of color. That means I'm going to be focusing on a skim milk consistency, which means a lot of water, less pigment, just so I can kind of block in my colors. And I'm going to be blocking in the pinks and the cerulean blues. We're not going to be blocking in the browns. The browns are going to be last. And they're going to end up covering up my lines. The line work's going to fall away. It's totally going to fall away. So let's get started. Zan said, question, if you use a pipette to add water to my paints, is that too much water? Absolutely not. I do use a pipette. I just can't find them at the moment. I have a huge honking bag of them. And I got this feeling that I put them in the Goodwill box and now I have no pipettes. But no, it's not too much water. A lot of people use pipettes. Easy peasy. Okay. Now, I just want to make sure my permanent rose is here. My cerulean blue hue is here. And right down here is my burnt sienna. So I'm going to just kind of get a little bit of this permanent rose and get a nice little mixture of it right here. I would do it on my glass. So I'm mixing up some colors first just to get the consistency I want. I love this permanent rose because, and I think I'm going to add a little bit of that opera pink in. All right, this consistency right now is about a 2%. So it's about a 2% milk consistency. I've got some water. You can see that pigment is really strong. Look, I got a little bit of water down here. I'm just going to come in and just kind of wet my wings. Let's just wet the wings. I'm kind of holding my brush out pretty far. And it's a little bit tinged pink. Now, this is 100% cotton. It's sucking up that water like nobody's business right now. And I'm going to just drop some of this color in here, just so you can see how the Winsor & Newton works. Winsor & Newton stays where you put it, which I kind of like and I appreciate. So you can see I'm brush dancing. I'm dancing my brush around, and we're just dropping some of that color in, and I'm letting it do its thing. I'm just kind of playing with it. But Winsor & Newton stays where you put it, and I'm kind of digging that. I'm loving the way that looks. I am going to end up using opera pink over top, and we're going to do a little bit of glazing. But for now, we're going to let this be the way it is. And I'm not so worried about how I've gone outside the lines a little bit. If that bothers you and you're painting along with me, just clean off your brush and just wipe it away. But I'm probably going to do a little bit of washy-washy around it. I'm kind of digging that. Now, I've left this area pretty open. There's a little bit of water here. Let me just double check. Yep, there's a little bit of water here. I'm going to take some of that cerulean blue, and you can see I'm just kind of scrubbing my brush over it a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm going to drop some of that color in. Now, notice I dropped it and it didn't move. And that's one of the things about Winsor & Newton. It's not a whoosh kind of watercolor. It is a you put it, and it stays where you put it. And I kind of like that. I kind of can appreciate that. I love a good whoosh color, believe me. But when I'm kind of just playing around and I'm mixing colors in like I am right now, I'm just going to drop a little bit right there. I kind of can really appreciate this brand for not whooshing on me, for not giving me some unexplained whooshing. A couple brands that whoosh, I've shared a lot. That the Core brand whooshes, Rosa Gallery whooshes, Schminka whooshes a little bit. And within brands, different colors might whoosh and some might not whoosh. All right, I'm digging the way that looks. Let's come over. Now I'm also trying to make sure I don't get any color, any brown in any color into the body right now. I'm working the outer edges of the body right now. Now this side of the wing is going to have a little bit of blue here and a little bit of blue here. And, you know, let's take a look at our inspiration. A little bit of blue here, a little bit of blue here. Some of it's going to mix up with some of that pink, and it's going to become a little purpley. I love this flower because it's an interpretation of what the real, not flower, flutter. I love this flutter. It's an interpretation. This painting is an interpretation of the mother of the pearl. It's not an exact replica because it's a little bit washy and abstract, and we're having fun with it. Hello, Riva. Riva just popped in. Okay, now I'm just going to do a little bit of wet into wet, and I'm just dropping some water. This etcher paper is super thirsty paper, and what I mean by that is that it takes a lot of water. It can take a lot of water, but it just keeps taking it and keeps taking it. And I really love that about 100% cotton paper. Now, other brands that do that are Arches. The Arches brand does that as well. Look, I got a little bit of whooshing happening, not a lot, just dropping some color in. And I'm going to clean off my brush and work with what's here because I really just want to get just drop, 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 do a little bit of brush dancing here, and just kind of get that layer in. Layer me some color. Holy smokes, the sun is finally coming out. I had, it got really cold, and it was really warm this morning when I got up and worked out, did a bunch of things, did some work, and then it rained a little bit, which is, you know, spring. And now the sun's coming out. So that's lovely. We're going to have a lovely day. All right, let's pull some of this color in a little bit. And you see that I'm just working with what's here. You can see this side starting to dry. And we've got that color value that has shifted. And it is going to enable us to add more color to it. Again, working with the Winsor Newton Cotman. I'm digging it. I got a little bit of that pink in the middle. I don't want that to be there. So I'm also dancing around and leaving quite a bit of white. Quite a bit of white. Zan said what brush size I'm using. I'm using a number 6. And then we're probably going to come in, maybe, with a number 2 for some detail. These brushes I've been using a lot. They're the Princeton Heritage brand. They hold a lot of water. They got a nice little snap back. See how they snap? Snap, snap. I'm digging them. And I have a lot of brushes, friends. I have a lot of brushes. Okay, Riva just asked a really good question. So if there is no water on the body, the color will not whoosh that way. Okay, there was water on the paper. So we're doing a wet into wet. Brush is wet. Paper's wet. This particular brand, Winsor Newton, doesn't whoosh as much. It doesn't, it kind of stays where I put it. And you can see that I was like dancing my brush around and kind of coaxing it into the areas I want it to be in. So that's one of the things you can notice about the different brands that you're using. If you have a lot of water and you drop your watercolor in and it whooshes, it's got a different kind of binder to it. Like Core Watercolors has their own binder called Aquazol in it that really makes their watercolor like run. And it's a lot of fun. So experiment with your different brands that you may have in your stash. I'm just going to lift away some of that color that just ran, and see what you like about it. See if you like it. If you're the type of person who really likes control, but you really love the idea of watercolor being kind of wild and woolly, you might choose a brand that stays where you put it. So Winsor Newton might work out for you. And the Cotman is a great way to get started. And you can always replace, over time, or not, replace the colors with some more of the professional line if you want to. But you don't have to. Again, look at these colors. How vibrant they are. I love them. I dig it. And again, people might come at me for that and might be like, well, if it's professional, you got to use professional. You know what, friends? I'm more of like, use what you love, experiment, have fun. And when you find something you love, just run with it. Run with it. I hope everybody can kind of appreciate that. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to drop a little bit of that cerulean blue. A little bit right here, let that run a little bit, and a little bit over here. I'm like kind of looking up at my reference, and I'm going to let some of that bleed into my pinks and let that kind of do its thing. You can see I'm just kind of dancing around. My brush is wet, the paper's wet. I'm going to let that be the way it is. Kind of digging that. Bring some of that over there. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, I'm going to move on to some of the browns, the burnt sienna. And I'm going to work a little bit in that center while this side dries a little bit. We're going to see how this comes out. Here is the burnt sienna. I really, really love this color. Now, different brands have different kinds of, like, different ways that the burnt sienna works, or any other color. And here's the reason why. You could have a burnt sienna in this brand. You can see that I'm using quite a bit of going back and forth with my brush on this Cotman to kind of get that 2% milk consistency that I'm looking for. A little bit of water, a little bit of milk. So one of the differences between your professional brands and your artist grade brands is literally the number of times you're going to take your brush over it to get the amount of paint that you want. But you know what? It's not a deal breaker for me, because I can get that value up to where I want. I'm just going to use a little bit more paint. And friends, I have a lot of paint to use, so I'm just going to go for it. All right, this is a 2% milk consistency with this color. And I'm going to just kind of show you. Look at that. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, I love it. I love it. I kind of want it to be a little thicker. So I'm going to come in. I'm getting a little bit more. It's a lot thicker. Okay. Dan just shared, I am the world's worst sketcher. I usually stick with loose watercolor or use a stamp. And that's wonderful. That's why I provided the sketch. If you were on my email list, it came to everybody in an email, and you can just print it out. And the sketch is going to fall away. And so, you know what? I use stamps too. We use stamps all the time and use them as our outer framework for our paintings. Now, I'm going to come in. I actually kind of wish I would have used a smaller brush. You see me sitting here debating on using the smaller brush. So I just got all that pigment on that brush. I'm going to come in with this smaller brush, number 2. This is actually a little smaller than I'd like it to be. But you know what? We're painting live. And I've got all that color right here. And you can see that this is getting closer to a whole milk consistency. I have quite a bit of that burnt sienna already on the paper. I'm just going to try to work with what's here and work on this body. So brush is wet, paper is dry. My paper is dry, and I'm going to just kind of blend this color out a little bit, what I already have on the painting here. And I'm just going to pull it out and around the bottom of the body. Now, I added the body to the bottom of this painting in the beginning, when I showed everybody the inspiration that came out of the book. The real mother of the pearl, the body kind of ends here, but I wanted to extend it a little bit because I wanted to and make it kind of like a moth. Now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to go back in my burnt sienna and just lift up a good amount of pigment. And my brush is wet, but it's not super wet. The painting is dry. We're going to go wet into dry, and I'm going to get more of a whole milk consistency of this paint. And I'm just going to paint that little antenna with the very, very tip of this brush. Ooh, there's a little bit of water. That's all right. We got a little bit of washy happening. I'm just going to let that do its thing until it dries. All right. Now we've got kind of like our first layer of color on here. And we're going to, let's just heat this up a little bit. I want this to dry. I want you to see, like when this dries, how it's going to shift back. Now, with the artist grade paints versus the student grade paints, the shift is a little bit more noticeable. So you have the opportunity to go back in and layer more color in, glaze more color in. If you're using a brand like Daniel Smith or even the Winsor Newton Professional brand or Da Vinci, the shift or Schminke or all those other brands that I've used on this channel that are more in the expensive, upgraded professional line, the shift is going to be not as noticeable. But I don't care. The shift is going to be just fine because this particular butterfly is kind of ethereal in nature anyway. It's already got a lot of translucency and it's just beautiful. Let's go. All right, let's try this up. Oh, I love it. Now you can see that over here, see the shift over here, I had more water. So let's talk about our differences here. I had more water with my pigment. So this is a little washied out. I had more pigment, less water, and I've got a little bit more vibrancy here, and I love that. Now, these colors are beautiful. This set is beautiful. So don't let the Cotman line be a deterrent to you, you know, if it's something that you're interested in. Now, I'm going to go in, and I think we're going to kind of come in and add a little bit more pink, a little bit more blue, and then we're going to come in and add our browns. So I think we're going to end up doing like 2 layers or 3 layers of color and some finish over top. So let's come in with a little bit more. I'm going to come in with a more intense consistency of this paint. So I'm coming over this color quite a bit. You know, I'm dipping my brush in. My consistency of paint here is closer to a whole milk consistency. I love this permanent rose color. Love it. Okay, Reva just shared, just printed out my butterfly. I'm going to have to see what I can do. She shared, I'm not good at all with watercolor. Yes, you are. Just takes a little practice. Okay, now we had a skim milk kind of consistency here, coming in with a whole milk kind of consistency. Brush is wet, paper is dry, and I'm going to add a little bit of color here. I'm just going to start to add a little bit of these colors. This might feel scary because look, I'm just dropping in some of this color, but it's not moving because it's a pretty consistent amount of pigment. Cleaning off my brush is now completely clear, right? No pigment, a little bit wet, not super soppy wet, and I'm just going to kind of scrub over it just a little bit, just blend out some of this color. Got it a little bit too wet there, but that's okay. Just going to kind of scrub over it and let it I'm going to move it around a little bit. Just kind of get my color going here. Now, while this is wet, I'm going to come in. See how I'm just going to feather this out. And you can see me going back and forth, kind of cleaning off my brush. And you can see there's a few harsh lines here. Now, Winsor Newton stays where you put it, right? So I need to work a little faster in some of those areas if I don't want harsh lines. But I actually don't care about the harsh lines. I kind of don't mind it. I'm going to come in with a little bit of cerulean blue and let that cerulean blue mix with that permanent rose there. I'm going to get a little bit of a purple going. I'm going to bring that cerulean blue over a little bit towards the body. Just kind of let these things do what they're gonna do. All right, I'm digging this. Digging the way this looks. Just gonna let that be. Now we're gonna go to the other side. It's a lot more, it's pretty vibrant. Let's go to the other side and do the same thing. I've got that consistency here. That whole milk consistency. I'm going to focus on adding a little bit more details right here because I've got quite a bit. So my brush is wet, the paper is dry. I just kind of dance that color in, cleaning off my brush. Coming in and just going to spread that out a little bit. Just feather that out by dancing my brush over it. So notice that I'm not like going like this, like traditional brush strokes. I drop the color in, and now I'm just cleaning my brush and dancing my color around, just dancing it around, letting it mix in here, feathering it in a little bit, letting it mix, kind of dig that. I'm digging the way this came. I haven't painted this butterfly since, I think it was 2020. I'm kind of digging it. All right, I'm going to drop a little bit of that blue hue in. Going to drop a little bit of that blue hue right here. Let it mix in right there. Your little kitty is meowing. The little kitten. I think you all met Dash. Like 2 weeks ago, he jumped into frame. He's a fun one. He's our little kitty. He's my daughter's new kitten. And she just came back from class, and he was howling for her. So super cute. All right, this is super vibrant. This is a lot more vibrant than my original painting. Let's go ahead and dry this. Let's go completely dry, and we're going to see how it's going to shift back. And I'm going to start to add in some of the browns, and I'm probably going to bring in a little bit of burnt umber. Okay. Oh boy. Looks like we got somebody that popped in with some spam. All right. Get rid of our spammer. All right, I'm digging the way this looks. It's a little bit different than my original painting. And that's basically because of where I've plopped down my colors, but that's okay, I'm digging it. All right. Everything is pretty dry, and I kind of like it the way it is. But now we're going to go in, we're going to add some of those details with the burnt sienna, and I think I'm going to need to bring in some burnt umber. Now, let's go ahead and do that. Let's get some burnt sienna in here. I'm going to take some of that burnt sienna. I'm going over the Cotman here, and I'm bringing that in. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joanne, for your sweet comment. She said, I'm a very patient teacher. I like to go slow, and I like to like for you guys to see like what I'm thinking while I'm looking at something. And I've never actually ever painted the same thing the same way ever. Like replicated it exactly. Dan said, wow, I never saw a spammer. It means I'm focused on Lisa and not the chat. Because we've got that 20-second delay. So you might not have seen the spammer. Like I saw somebody pop in and they did a bunch of emojis, and that usually is like a bot that might have popped in. So I caught it before everybody could see it, I think. Very good. Okay. All right, I've got my consistency here. I'm going to come in with a little bit of a smaller brush because I'm going to go in and go around my edges. Now, this particular, here's our inspiration for dropping our browns in. So you can see that we've got some patches of brown and we've got some edges. So the edges of this particular butterfly has some brown in it. And I'm using burnt sienna. So let's go ahead. I've got some thin lines. And I'm just going at full strength here. 100%, like my paper is dry, my brush is wet. I'm using burnt sienna. My original painting uses a little bit of a darker color. I'm just going around my edges here, very, very ziggy-zaggy, following it a little bit. And that's why I think I might end up coming in with a little bit of a darker color. And I'm just using my drawing as my guide. I'm going to drop a little bit of these little tiny little circles. Just little circles, just kind of giving me a little sense of what's going on with that browns. And I'm going to come in. Now, this burnt sienna is a little more goldy, like a goldy brown, which I kind of like. See, I'm just kind of sketching my way around the edge. I'm going to do it around the other side, and I know for a fact that I'm going to end up coming back in with a little bit of a darker color. Riva just shared, the attorney that I work for is an accomplished watercolor artist. She is not patient, has made many comments. If I watercolor on a stamped image, it's like paint by number. So she's, that's okay. There are a lot of massively accomplished watercolor artists that hold themselves to hard and fast rules about things. And yeah, Riva, it's a little bit rude, but it's just kind of how they are. And I'm going to tell you a little story about my encounter with an artist that was very, very much like that. So in my area here in Westminster, Maryland, we have an art center called the Carroll Art Center. And every year they have a members show. And one year I participated in the members show. And I had a watercolor painting that I did. And all the members were there at a show. And this particular artist, she was she was a bit older than me. And we were at the member show. It's kind of making me laugh now because we had a really beautiful conversation, but she was very, very traditional in her thinking, and we kind of just could appreciate each other, but it just kind of makes me giggle thinking about it right now. I'm just dropping a few little things in here just to kind of frame in that look. So we've got this framed in feel. I definitely am going to come in with a little bit of a darker brown that I'm going to mix up. Now, she painted this absolutely beautiful landscape of our rural area that I live in Westminster, with a beautiful barn, and it was absolutely stunning with watercolor, and it was framed and it was gorgeous, and I just loved it and I could appreciate it. And then my painting happened to be right next to hers, and mine was a big washy floral done on canvas with watercolor and a little bit of mixed media in there. And she kind of turned her nose up at my work, and we were talking about using different mediums, and she's like, no, I don't do that. I only use watercolor. And I said, that's amazing. That's really cool. I can really appreciate that. I'm going to pull some burnt umber into my mix here. And she said to me, so she was very, very traditional in nature. She goes, I don't mix mediums. I only use one particular brand of watercolor. That was Winsor Newton she uses. And I've used it forever. And my technique is this way and that way. And I was just like, it's absolutely beautiful. I was like so appreciative of her sharing her process with me. But she snubbed my painting for being more commercial in nature, not professional in nature, more commercial and more to be hung in a bathroom. And actually, I just used her voice, in a bathroom versus to be hung like in her home. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I would like that painting in my bathroom because I like flowers. So here's the lesson in this. I'm coming over this with a bit of burnt umber and just kind of going over what I've done. And I'm layering some color in here. The lesson is everybody has their own perspective. And many artists might snub your work, might call it paint by number if you're watercoloring your stamps. Who cares? The joy is there. You're having fun. You're using some techniques that you've learned. I'm just dancing my brush. I've got 100% like of this color here, like a whole milk consistency of that burnt umber, and just coming over, just kind of glazing over what I've done, just to add a little bit of details, almost like sketching with my brush. Just adding a little bit of details around the edges here. So, was I upset that she snubbed my work? No, not upset. We were also from different generations. And maybe she didn't have someone in her life at that time when she was younger and getting started that inspired her to another way, right? Okay. Gloria just shared, it takes talent to watercolor a stamped image. It's still creativity and art, absolutely. It takes courage to share your work. It takes bravery to like put yourself out there, to be exposed and ridiculed, in my case, by an artist who had gone before me. But you know what? I still had an amazing conversation with her. And in the end, I really felt like it was, we had a lot to learn from each other. So hopefully she learned a little bit from me. Maybe not, but that's okay. I still did it anyway. Judith said, question, do you do landscapes? No. I haven't. I can totally appreciate them and absolutely love them. Lately, I've been incredibly inspired by the landscapes of Sarah Cray. If you've never seen her work, look her up. Sarah Cray. She is the owner of Let's Make Art at letsmakeart.com. She's also an accomplished watercolor artist, and her landscapes lately have been inspiring me to give it a try. All right, I'm blending out some of my harsh lines here because I got some harshy kind of lines here, and I just kind of want it to be a little bit whooshy. All right, I'm kind of digging this. I'm kind of digging the way this looks. Reva just shared my boss is 80, so there you go. I will say that the person that I had that encounter with was older. I don't know if she was 80, and this was probably this was pre-COVID, so this was several years ago now. I'm going to come in with this burnt umber, and we're going to do the body now and just add a little bit of detail to the body. What I found really interesting about the encounter with her is that someone from the local paper had reached out to her, just adding a few little details over top of this burnt sienna. had reached out to her to talk about her painting because obviously it was going to be an award winner because it was an absolute beautiful landscape. And she said, and I was standing there and we were talking about it, and she offered this information to me, and she said, she put her hands over her heart and she's like, I could not be bothered by talking with the reporter about this painting or this event. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, but it would have been kind of cool if you did talk to the reporter, because then that reporter would have gotten a little bit more information about our community and our art center and all the different kinds of artists that are displaying their work here. So, it would have been good to kind of share that joy with that reporter and share your work. And she said, I just could not be bothered. So she kind of made me giggle. Now, if a reporter would have came to me, I would have been talking about everybody's work because it was a really great show. Okay. But the reporter didn't come to me. Anywho, super fun. I hear everybody sharing in the comments. I tried landscape. Mine looked like a 4-year-old painting. Mine probably would right now too. I think I could do some skies, right? I could probably do some really cool skies. I'm loving the way this is coming out. I'm really not loving this little boogered up spot over here, but that's okay. I'm going to see if I can recover. Come in with a clean brush and kind of lift some of that out. Looks all right. Anywho, I just wanted to comment on Reva's comment about her boss telling her that her work was paint by number. No, it's not. If you enjoy it and you really like doing it, it's not paint by number. It's tapping into that creativity, tapping into that part of your brain. I call it crafting your joy. You're tapping into that part of your brain that's giving it is reducing. When you do stuff like this, it taps into that part of your brain and it sends out the endorphins and that dopamine, and dopamine is the happy hormone, right? And it just makes you super chill. Helps you get in the zone. I feel like it's kind of self-care-ish. Cheryl just said, I know someone who's very similar, and you just can't change them. That's okay. I don't think the point, I agree. I don't think that the point is to try and change them as much as it is to try to, and not write them off either. Try to have a conversation with them, because I feel like you learn a lot. I'm just kind of tidying up what I got going on here. And I think I'm digging the way this looks. And I'm going to come in and start to do a little bit of detail work with this brush. This number 2. Gloria says, if you try skies, don't forget the tissue technique for clouds. Yes. You know what? Maybe our next paint and chat, we'll try to do some, I don't know, maybe we'll try to do a landscape, right? Maybe we'll do clouds and have some fun with texture-based techniques. Because those texture-based techniques you can always use for your card backgrounds. Easy. So I'm going to pick up some of this permanent rose. I'm going to actually just get a big wad of this permanent rose. See it? That's so funny and so true. We don't make cards, etc. to save money. No, we don't. Because these hobbies can be a little pricey, right? All right, I'm coming in with a little bit more of this permanent rose, and I'm coming in with a little bit of a consistency of whole milk, and I'm just going to kind of sketch in a few lines. Just randomly sketching in a few lines here, just to bring in a little bit of detail. I'm probably going to feather those lines out. Good thing I'm going to the ENT tomorrow. I've got that itchy throat. Excuse me, sinusy stuff. It's constant. Okay. All right, I'm just going to do some of these lines. Come in with a little bit of that cerulean blue. Do the same thing in some of that cerulean area. Just really faint. Ah, that one was a little big. Clean off my brush, and I'm going to feather these out just a smidge. And by feathering it, I'm just going to run my wet brush over it. Now, people who poo-poo your work, in that, back to that conversation, I just feel like have a conversation with someone like that, if you can, and just share your perspective and be open. I feel like I learn a lot from people who have opinions like that, and I often have found that a lot of it is just some traditional thinking. Someone told them that, and someone might have told them when they were really young, don't do that, do it this way, like a hard and fast rule. When I feel like art and painting and paper crafting, this is all about experimentation and like having some fun. Well, this painting is starting to turn out a lot different than our original. Look how like ethereal that is. I really kind of went in on this one and added a lot of color. Yeah, Catherine just shared, it's always good to know that other people have different perspectives. I am a control painter and I cherish your influence to be more washy. It enlarges my vision. That's so cool. I'm so glad you said that because we're getting ready to get washy up in here. All right, where's my big brush? Here we go. We're going to get a number 10 and we're going to get washy all around this and then we're just going to be done, I think. Mary just said, I think it would be fun to play with different sky combinations and different grounds. Maybe water. Yes. I'm going to play with it a little bit more. Again, check out Sarah Cray. Oh my God, her work is so inspiring. You can find her on Instagram as Sarah Cray. I'm adding some water around the edges of my painting here. And I'm extending that water out. So we're going to do some washy-washy. And some of the color is bleeding out. And that's okay. And that's okay. Just adding water, clean water. Well, not so clean because it's picking up some of these colors. All around it. Letting the colors run a little bit. And then I'm going to pick up some of this pink. And I'm really adding a lot of this water to this permanent rose. I'm going to drop it in. Notice how Winsor Newton, not super whooshy. It's whooshing a little bit, right? Not super whooshy. Dropping it in. And then just kind of letting it do its thing. Moving it around. It feels like it's going to be like super duper strength here. If you don't like what you got, you can always come in with a paper towel and dab some of it off. But I'm kind of digging the way it looks. And I think we're going to almost call it done. And let it dry and let it be. And I'm letting that bleed out. Okay, friends, we've been on, let's see, I came on at 11:30. Ooh, we've gone way over the hour. So, and you know what? Many of you have stayed with me to the end here. I'm just like, whoa. Okay, here's the set that I used. This particular Cotman set comes with a number 3 brush. Look at that. I should probably use this. Cotman does have a line of brushes. This set has a great mixing area here. It has this big honkin' mixing area here that sits inside. Look at me trying to get it in here. Trying to get it in here with one hand without dropping it down. So I'm going to have to drop it down. So this fits in, or maybe it fits in over here. No, it fits in here. I'm just being kind of like, don't have my glasses on and I can't see things close up. So this fits in here. This comes out. Look at that. It's a lot of mixing area. A mixing area in here. I'm kind of digging it. Love this. All fits in here really nicely. And you close it up. And boom. Ooh, Tierra Bloom's Flower Farm. This is my favorite flower farm in Maryland. They're in Tawnytown, Maryland, which is the next town over from us. Love them. And I got some flowers over the weekend and I stuck their sticker on this set. I love their flowers. Anyway, okay. Butterflies are on the to-do list for Mother's Day gifts. Yes. Yes. I love that. Oh, Mother's Day is coming. I'm a mother. You'd think I'd know that. I'm a mother, but my mother has passed, so sometimes I forget those things. Okay, let's come back. This painting, I'm digging it. I'm absolutely digging it. Here was our original that I did a couple years ago as part of that, and different paper too. So let's take a look real quick. Indulge me here. 100% cotton paper. Look how vibrant that color. Look how vibrant these Cotman paints are. This is not 100% cotton paper. This is a cellulose paper. Colors are still vibrant. They just look different. And I use the same paints. Yeesh. Love that. Love it. Okay. All right, friends. Let me pop my head back on. Let's get the double head off. How about we do that? Okay. All right, friends. I had so much fun today with our watercolor paint and chat. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot of really great information about the Winsor Newton line from my perspective, before people start coming at me. From my perspective, okay? And what I've observed in these paints and using them. And today I purposely used the Cotman line because look at what you can achieve. Look at the vibrance that you can achieve with these paints. So remember, when you're building your watercolor stash, you don't need all the brands. You just need a brand that you like, fits within your budget, and you learn how to paint with it, and you learn based on your style. If you're a washy-washy person, you might like a certain brand. If you like control, you might like another brand. If you like specific colors, there's lots of different options. So I hope that me just kind of walking through the Winsor Newton line with you today just gave you kind of opened your eyes to the brand a little bit. As you know, I use lots of different brands, and I'm curious person, and I love every brand that I use. Too many brands. You don't need all these paints. Okay. All right, friends, it was a total nerd out today. We painted this flutter. We had a little bit of chat about crafting your joy, about other people's perspectives. And, we just took a deep dive and just had some fun. Okay, I will be back next week on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday or Friday of next week. If you're on my email list, you'll get that to pop into your email. If you aren't on my email list and you want the line drawing that we did today for this this flutter, pop on my email list. All the information is down below in the description. Everything that we used today is down below in the description. Whoosh! It was just a lot of fun today. Okay. All right, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. I will see you next week. And I hope I'm sending you into the weekend a little bit early. It's Wednesday to craft your joy. And if you've painted this flutter or if you painted anything that you've learned on my channel, I would love it if you'd share it with me. Okay, friends. I'll see you next week. Bye now.